Hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. How are you all doing? My name is Lindsey Hall, for anybody who doesn't know me, and I am an intimacy and empowerment coach. And that means that I specialize in helping women feel like deeper connected with intimacy with themselves and with others. I want women to own their pleasure and their power, and I want women to live a life that they absolutely fucking love. And I do all of that with lots of different ways of coaching. So every week I have these tea break chats where I chat a little bit about what's been going on in life lately for me, like what's come up, what I've moved through, what I've been experiencing, how I've dealt with it. And then I answer your questions that people send me on the day before. So this week, oh goodness, where do I dive in? Feels like it's been a big week, but also at the same time, like just a regular week. And this is part of this experience, is just that we get to feel lots of like seemingly contradictory things all at one time, and that is part of life. So what am I talking about when I say it's been a big week and also kind of a normal week? So last week I was running quite hard on lots of business stuff for the last few weeks because I've just been like flowing with ideas and action and momentum and things like getting an email list up and going and getting a YouTube channel, booking onto loads of podcasts and starting a podcast, starting 2 podcasts in fact, and just like going with lots. So by the end of last week, by last Friday, I knew that I needed a little bit of me time. And because on top of all of that, I'd had my kids. So we normally have a 50-50 co-parenting timeshare. But I'd had them a lot more than usual for various reasons. So all of that meant that I was just like, like in a good way, but just there was lots. So I knew I needed some downtime. So Friday I had an appointment. I had a haircut. I had an appointment to get my brows done. And I specifically took the time to kind of like wander. Those appointments weren't back to back, so I like wandered through a cute little part of the town that I live in and had lunch and got some gluten-free pastry, and I just really enjoyed it. Because I knew that over the course of the weekend I had quite a few things going on, but it was all just like normal stuff. So Saturday I had a day with nothing planned. My kids were with their dad for the whole weekend, so Saturday I had, in theory, had nothing planned, but I knew it was going to be party prep day because Sunday was my daughter's birthday party, and I was organizing the party for it. And then on Monday I had plans to go out for a walk in the Peaks, and the Peak District is near where I live and it's absolutely gorgeous. And then on Tuesday, I was going to have a photo shoot, like a branding photo shoot for my business. So I knew there was all this stuff coming up, but all of that stuff, none of that was like earth-shaking, groundbreaking stuff. It's just normal life. So that's what the part where I'm like, oh, it was like also kind of a nothing weekend. But the cool part with all of this, like the really cool part that I'm just like soaking in and savoring, is how different all of that feels, and how this weekend was really about living my work and embodying my work and noticing that. So stuff that would have been difficult for me in the past, or would have had me stressed out, or would have had the comparison game going crazy in my head, and didn't do that anymore. So I will give some specific examples. Some are personal life and involve other people that I don't need to talk about, because as much as I love you guys, I don't share every detail. But I will give some examples. So some of that is like the birthday party that I was throwing. Now, I don't know about you guys and where you live, but it seems like it can feel like a lot of pressure on throwing kids' birthday parties. And when you get invited to lots of birthday parties, and see how lots of them are done, there becomes what feels like an expectation to do them a certain way. And I really, really hate like having to do things a certain way, for one thing, but then also like the way I live my life these days and have been for several years now, I really try and minimize stress in my life. I want to do things in whatever way will make it the easiest for me, because I think we all benefit this way. And that is something I really learned in lockdown. So during lockdown, when I was a newly single mom with a tiny baby and a toddler and, in lockdown, and it was like, right, I am just I'm lowering my expectations and just doing things that like feel good and easy for me. And then that continued after lockdown came out, of like, that was part of my like coping as a single mom, was do the things that give me the least stress. And actually turns out that's not just a coping mechanism, that's a brilliant strategy for life. I plan to adopt this like forever. So anyway, so I want to do things that are the least stressful for me because I know that I will feel the most joy from that. And therefore, everybody else around me will feel more comfortable and more joy as well. So, back to my daughter's birthday party. So last year we had co-planned, my co-parent and I had sort of jointly done a birthday party. I say sort of, that was the intention. It was sort of awkward trying to co-plan something. So we have decided early on that we want to do birthdays together for our kids, and we have a good enough relationship that that is generally feasible. But this year when it came up for my kids' birthday party, and the suggestion was should we plan it together, I said, actually, I don't really love that. Like, co-planning anything with anyone is a bit tricky because, like, we can, not as people pleasers, we don't want to upset the other one and kind of dancing around. And especially with my co-parents, where I was like, I don't want to feel like we're both trying not to step on each other's toes and like dancing around. That feels like that's going to be icky feeling for us. So how about we just alternate? So we agreed on alternating. One year one of us will plan it, the next year the other one will. So this year, the first year, I was going to plan a birthday party. So immediately that was one thing of stress resolved of like, actually, at least it's on me. So yes, it's all on me, but that means I can do it my way. I don't have to check in with anybody else. I don't have to worry about somebody else's budget. I just get to do it my way. So the plan for this year was to go to the park and have my kiddo invite like basically as many friends as she wanted within reason. She had come up with an invite list of 24 kids. And so the ease of it all started with, it's going to be at the park in an open space. We just get to do that. She actually, so it was her 6th birthday. She wrote all of the invitations herself. And in hindsight, it would have been a little bit helpful if I had added on a please RSVP to me and given my phone number, but I didn't. I just let her write the invitations and give them all out. So parents had caught me in the playground to tell me if they were coming or not, but not everybody. So I didn't even have a definite list of people who were coming. I had a rough idea and I was like, well, we're just going to roll with this. So rather than stressing out about like exactly who was coming in numbers, it's like, we're just going to go with roughly this amount. I did not plan basically anything in advance. I had a rough idea. So my kiddo had written a few lists. She had written like the games she wanted to play, and she wrote the invite list. She wrote the food she wanted. So I had like a rough idea of what she wanted to do. She is like mega planner. I think she's going to be like an event organizer someday or something like that. So I had a rough idea of what she wanted. But I just was like, okay, I know that I'm kid-free that weekend of the party, so I'm going to do all my prep then. And because I knew I had that time, I was okay with that. So then when it came to party prep time, and all of this is because I'm giving you examples of like how I make life as less stressful for me as possible. So then when it came to party prep time, another thing that I don't really love is party bags. I don't love the cost of them. I don't love the faff of them. I don't love the giving of plastic tat or the getting of plastic tat. Like, I hate when my kids come home with just plastic crap that is going to get used once and thrown away. A, I don't like the clutter. B, I don't like the environmental impact of it. So I take issues with some of these things. Hello, my love. So in terms of doing the party bags, at first I had thought, I'm just not doing party bags. Like, I don't like them. I don't want to do them. I know I'll get other parents will be like, but I can live with that. What I can't live with is when I said to my kiddo, I think I'm going to not do party bags. And she was horrified, absolutely horrified at the thought of not doing party bags. I was like, okay, I'll figure something out for her sake. So what I ended up doing was I got little notebooks and I bought a big pack of gel pens and I bought some sticker sheets. And so everybody got a notebook, 2 gel pens, and a sticker sheet. So none of that is like plastic crap that's going to go straight in the bin. It's going to get used. It's going to get used for something creative and has minimal, it all has environmental impact, doesn't it? But less than plastic crap that goes straight in the bin. So I felt good about that and it didn't cost very much. I just went to 2 of the cheap stores in town and got that. Then I went to a cheap store and I didn't want to do party food because, again, the thought of having to prepare all the food, the cost of all the food, getting kids to sit down and do a planned thing, no thank you. So I was like, well, we're just going to do snacks because goodness knows 5 and 6-year-olds would perish without snacks for 2 hours. Like, they would actually keel over and die probably is how they would react. So I knew we had to have some sort of food. So I was like, but we're not going to do, like a sit down thing, which is what most parties seem to do. Like, not having that. So I went to Lidl, to the cheap grocery store. I bought a bunch of snacks, fruit and crispy things for less than 20 pounds, put it in bowls on the table. I didn't even have plates. I didn't even have napkins. It was like, hey, wild children who are 5 and 6, come up, grab what you want, whenever you want, like grab a handful of food and run away and play. I do not care. It's easier that way. I had big bottles I got like 2-liter bottles of water and the squeezy juice and squeeze some juice in, and I could keep filling up kids' cups. And I had reusable cups, so I'll be able to use those same cups for all the kids' parties forevermore. So I did this party in a way that was just so free flow and chill. My kid wanted a few certain games, so we did gather the kids together for that. But most of the time, they were just running and playing in the park, and everybody had such a brilliant time. It was so relaxed. Another thing that I did that was totally my way and less stressful is pass the parcel. So where you have something like a toy wrapped up in lots of layers of paper and you pass it around whenever the music stops, you take off one layer, then the music keeps going, you pass it around, the next music stops, take off another layer. And the common way of playing that in England is that there's a treat in between every layer, like a little piece of candy or something. And but when you play it that way, people try and get one layer per kid so that every kid gets a treat. Otherwise there's tears, but then you also have to make sure that you stop the music on every kid so they get one. And there's every time I've seen Pass the Parcel played that way, there's tears. And again, I didn't want that. So I was like, nope, we're not doing it. I will wrap it in as many layers until I get bored. There's only one present in the middle, and that's the way we're going to do it. And when I announced to the kids that's what we were doing, which by the way is the old school way. Apparently this is how it used to be played, but has now moved towards the every kid gets one. And I actually did a poll on my Instagram the day before of who plays which of those ways. And it was overwhelmingly people play with one treat per layer. And I was like, oh no, I am going to get annihilated here. I thought there was going to be absolute bloodshed because I wasn't giving a treat in every layer. I was like, I'm sticking with it, but this is not going to be pretty. But when I announced to the kids that that's what I was doing, they were all like, what? Why? Oh, okay. And we played, and there was not a single tear shed. Everybody was thrilled. The kid at the end got the present, and that was that. And it was so great. So it was just a really great example of sticking with what works best for us often works best for everybody else, and being confident in that decision. So that was my whole plan of just letting it flow, trusting it was going to work out, doing the things that made it the easiest for me and aligned with my values. So things being as reusable as possible, as environmentally friendly as possible, within reason, because, I always say I'm eco-conscious to the point it's convenient for me. So it was within reason, but there was minimal trash as a result of all of this. The whole thing just felt good and aligned, and everybody had a great time instead of leaving oh, which is normally how I feel about kids' parties. The whole thing is stressful and I can't wait to get out of there, whether it's my kid or somebody else's kid. I'm just whereas this was that was so good. So yeah, that was a huge part of embodying my work this weekend. There also were some points where things came up with co-parenting because, so like I said, I was the one who was planning this and that was agreed, but we were all there together. And there was a few moments of somebody being uncomfortable because of something the other co-parents did, and it kind of went both directions. And a huge win for me, though, is that would have taken up a lot of my mental energy in the past, and it would have been either me trying really hard not to step on their toes or getting wound up about something they did. Whereas we're in a place now, because of all of the work of the last few years, where yes, there were some tricky moments, but also I now have some really strong energetic boundaries where I know that somebody else's stress and anxiety is not mine to take on. And I know really clearly that I am acting in my integrity and doing things that I think are, best aligned with our future co-parenting relationship. And that does not mean I won't ever get things wrong. There are times where I might be the one to step on their toes, and I understand that. but I know that it's never coming from a place of trying to cause harm or trying to do anything, vicious or mean. But I also know that there's times where they're going to feel put out or like their toes are stepped on, and it actually has nothing to do with me. And those are the times where I'm like, okay, I recognize that you are feeling anxious or stressed about something, and you are putting kind of my face on it. Like, from their point of view, it's like they're stressed about something because of me, but I know that actually I'm just the face to it, and there's nothing that I can do about it or need to do about it. And it feels so great that like I don't even have to try to put up those energetic boundaries anymore. They just are. Like, if I know that you're stressed about this thing or anxious about this thing because I am simply there, because that was one of the things, like, it was my presence was causing anxiety in this certain moment. It's like, well, okay, I recognize that. I'm not downplaying your anxiety from that, but also that's not for me to fix or to take on, and I'm just going to do my thing. And so being able to recognize that and to feel that so easily now and really just embodying all of that, it feels really awesome. Like, so good. So yeah, that's been big stuff. Okay, then there's been some other stuff, but I could be here. It's just been such a beautiful weekend, and I could be here all day talking about it. So I think I will probably move on. And I'm going to talk about 2 questions this week. So the first one is, do I ever miss my corporate job and the structure for my corporate job and the environment around that? And the short answer is, yes and no. I was going to say the short answer is, yeah, I do sometimes. So yes, I do sometimes. There are times when I miss just being told what to do. I miss having a to-do list given to me, somebody else setting the deadlines, somebody else having ultimate responsibility. I miss the people. I miss having in particular, my boss and I were quite close, and my immediate team and I were quite close. So I was part of a big finance department, and I wasn't necessarily close with all of them. But my immediate boss and my immediate team, I miss them every day, and that consistency and that, in particular, like my boss, it was a hard-won battle over many years of working together, but like he had my back, and I knew that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, he was Team Lindsey, and I like having a Team Lindsey, where like he was, and we had each other's back. That was the thing. We had done, like I said, it was a hard-won battle over many years, but we had worked together for so long that we knew how to work together well. We complemented each other really well in terms of like where I was good at something, I could help him with, like, we were good at different things, and so we complemented each other quite well in that sense. So I miss all of that sometimes. Absolutely, that comes up. But do I regret leaving? Do I wish I was still there? Would I go back to it? Nope. No, I don't. So those feelings, particularly the feeling of missing somebody giving me a to-do list and like setting me deadlines and telling me how to do things, those pop up when I'm feeling the overwhelm of running my own business. Because running your own business is like, oh wow, like it's all on you. There is nobody else. There is like, the buck stops with you. And sometimes to know that like I could go in any direction I want, and I don't have to check that with somebody else. I don't have to run that by somebody else. I don't have to get, 8 rounds of sign off and approval. I could go in any direction, and that is freeing and amazing, and also sometimes overwhelming. Because sometimes we want there to be a right answer, and usually that's when it comes up, is like, what's the right answer? And hey, but the thing is, there is no right answer. So that is where, like, when I'm feeling that overwhelm of like, if I can find the right answer, then it's going to work. That's when I revert back to missing the corporate world and being like, if somebody else could just give me that, oh, thanks, Bethan. If somebody could give me those answers, like, that would feel reassuring. But like I said, I wouldn't trade that. When those things come up, I go back into myself and intimacy with myself and go, there is no right answer. This is all an experiment. And honestly, even in the corporate world, it's an illusion there too. It's not that there is a one right answer in the corporate world. It's that somebody else is telling you the answer, but they're making it up too. And at least when it's my own business, I have the freedom to decide where I'm going to experiment. And I know, and I come back to over and over, that whether it succeeds or fails doesn't have anything to do with me as a person. It doesn't mean that I picked the wrong thing or that I don't have it in me to do it or to be successful. It just means I tried that, didn't work, learned the lesson, try this other thing instead. If that works, great. Carry on from there. If it doesn't work, all right, learn that lesson, try over here. So really coming back to like checking in that there is no right or wrong and that I get to be amazing whether my business works or doesn't work helps me when I'm feeling overwhelmed and missing the structure of the corporate world. The other piece where I'm like missing the people element is that's where I've learned that getting out and working somewhere else is really helpful for me sometimes. So it's not the same as having the people who I know and see every day and talk to every day. Like nothing has replaced that for me yet. But it helps me to get out of my own four walls. And honestly, because I go to the same place most weeks now, like every Tuesday I tend to go to the same place, I see familiar faces. And no, I don't talk to them and they don't check in on me and we're not like friends. But even just that familiarity and consistency helps my brain and helps me feel like there's some sort of structure here. So I'm learning things like that in my entrepreneurial journey of like, how can I pull pieces of what I enjoyed from the corporate world and put that into my business, but how can I like, and then I can let go of all the stuff that didn't serve me. So that is my answer to, do I miss corporate world? And some of it, yes, but also I wouldn't trade it at all. Okay, then my second question that I had this week was one that made me, it hit my heart strongly, was about, will I find closure from my divorce when I meet somebody else? Like, they've been divorced for about 2 years and don't feel like they've got closure on it yet. And the question was, do I need to meet somebody else before I can get that closure? And like I said, it just pierced my heart. And the short answer to that one is no. And I know so many of us want that to be the answer, but honestly, another person to be in a relationship with isn't the answer to that. That is a sticky plaster over the top. The closure to your divorce comes from you. It doesn't come from somebody else. And there is trying to use another person, another relationship to get that closure, like I said, is just going to be a Band-Aid over the top. And it can work temporarily. It can feel like that then because you're not thinking about the ex anymore. Your brain is distracted by other stuff. So it can feel like you've got closure. But inside, it's actually not. It's not that. The closure comes from you. And I know, so like for me, I have been single for pretty much the whole time. I've been dating, but I haven't been in an actual proper relationship since my divorce 3 years ago. But I have closure, like quite strongly. That doesn't mean that stuff doesn't pop up now and then, that I don't get sad about things sometime or, think about old memories or old feelings and cry about things like that. Like stuff can still come up, but I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I have closure on our past relationship, and that feels really good and secure to me. Whereas I also know people who have been in relationships for quite a long time and have like new relationships for quite a long time and don't have closure on their divorce. And from the outside, you would think, but hang on, you've been with that person for years now. Like, how can you not have closure on the divorce? But because that's just not how it works. So the only way to get closure, and often in a lot of cases, the closure doesn't even come from you talking to your ex. The closure doesn't happen between you. Here again, I think people think that like, if I could just talk to them, I could get the closure. But closure can very much be a one-sided thing. The closure that I have is very much one-sided. It has nothing to do with like sitting down and hashing it out with my ex. And you'll notice when I'm in this context, I'm referring to him as my ex, whereas most of the time I refer to him as my co-parent, but that's because co-parent is our current relationship, whereas I am talking about closure with my ex-husband. And to me, that has actually been very important in getting the closure, is making that distinction. There, I have an ex I have a relationship with somebody who is my ex-husband, and that relationship is separate from the ongoing relationship I have with my co-parent. And that distinction's been huge for me. So this closure has not come from sitting down with him and hashing it out and getting closure. This has all come from within me. It's been from looking at our relationship from my perspective, which I didn't do when we were in the relationship, honestly. I did not do deep dives looking at what was going on. But I've now been able to look back and see my part, his part. It's not ever one-sided. And it might feel like it sometimes, but relationships are from two people. And so I've been able to look back and go, okay, what was his role? What was my role? What I want to do differently. I have actually done some apologies to him and some apologies to me about how I showed up in the relationship. Both he and I both deserved my apologies for certain things. So I have done some of that, which was to him. But mostly it's been my inner work and really looking at the stuff that I needed to, whereas the lack of closure, I think, comes from not feeling like you understand what happened, and not feeling, still wanting to like blame one person or the other person, or feeling the guilt from your side. But for me, the closure has come from just really looking at the whole picture with a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, being willing to dive in and look deeper and go, okay, I see what happened there, and I can see what I'm going to do differently next time. And it's been about forgiveness for him and me, forgiving both of us for what happened in our relationship. And all of that has been internal work. It has absolutely nothing to do with finding a new partner. A new partner is not going to be the thing that lets you do all of that. All of that has to be in here. So I know that that's often not what you want to hear, because it's actually a lot easier to just like go out and get a new boyfriend and hope that they distract you. But that's not going to be what helps with the closure. And you really, life is going to get so much easier, especially like your co-parenting life, once you have done that inner work to get that closure yourself. Because then you're able to actually, so although you might be like legally divorced by this point, if you are not emotionally divorced, if you have not closed that chapter of your life, then the wounds are going to get triggered so much easier. Then you've got these open wounds still and raw nerves. Whereas once you can close that all up, then and like I said, it doesn't mean that the old stuff's not going to get triggered sometimes, because it will. But the frequency of it decreases, the strength of the intensity of the feelings decreases. It just gets to be a lot smoother ride. So I cannot recommend enough doing all that work to get your own closure on this. So yeah, let me see if there's anything else. I think that's probably all I had to say for today. So I am going to wrap up by saying that if any of this struck a chord with you in any way, then let me know. If it's something that you want to add in the comments and we can have a public conversation about it. If it's something you want to send me in a message privately, you can totally do that too. If there's any of this that you want to dive into deeper and like personally, we can do one-to-one coaching. I've got lots of options for that. I've got 3 sessions for £444. I've got 3 months where you get 3 calls a month and you get ongoing text and voice note support, and that's £667 a month. All of that, just send me a message. There's also, I've got a divorcee program available that you can buy on my website. We've got all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in any of it, either send me a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find my website, my Instagram in the description down below. If you're already on Instagram, the website is in my bio. It's lindseyhallcoaches.com, by the way. lindseyhallcoaches.com, easy peasy. Or yeah, just send me a message and we can absolutely talk about this some more, okay? It's what I'm here for. So I am sending you all lots of love. If you've got questions, comments, let me know. I would love to hear from you. And I will see you this time next week, okay? And if you've got questions that you want to send to me for the Q&A, get in touch, send me your questions, and I will happily answer them next week. Okay, I love you all. Mwah.